Stay tuned for an exclusive interview with the Premier of New Brunswick, Mr. Blaine Higgs, and an in-depth interview with Jeff Wilson of Brilliant Labs.
Welcome back to SpartanTV. One huge improvement at our school this year has been the development of our technology wing. 3D printing, fashion tech, videography, you name it, we have it. Let's go into some of the new technologies that our students can take advantage of and interview Jeff Wilson, the Executive Director of Brilliant Labs, about how he has funded some of our technology and all that he's taught us.
Welcome to the Digital Productions Room. In here is where we study video and photography. Our big thing every month that we do is we create a video for Charlotte County TV, which is actually what you're watching right now. Some of the cool tools that we have to use here is this awesome camera that was donated by Brilliant Labs. We have a bunch of cool lenses that we use. We have this gimbal that is used to help stabilize our camera, and this awesome drone for getting some really nice aerial shots. And we've learned so much in this room about video and photography, and we've only just begun.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm the chief engineer for the 3D printing stuff. Here's the 3D printing room. Let me take you inside. So we've got the printers here. We currently have 7 printers, except one of them is missing because we were working on it. Here's some of the flower pots and the little coasters we make for the flower pots. That thing is a maintenance for a chair, and we also do the Spartan heads here. They are for sale, so just give Leg a shout if you want one. And here are some of the articulated animals. These right now are the hot sellers. They move as advertised. They have little joints in them, and they're super cool. So again, if you want any, just give Leg a shout. So this is the standard filament. This is really hard and it's not very malleable. However, we've got the TPU, which for anybody who's concerned about their kits breaking anything, it's pretty much indestructible.
Hi, my name is Ryan, and for my personal interest course, I'll be rebuilding this claw bot and having it compete in a competition. I've really enjoyed working with robotics, and I've learned a lot of skills from it.
Welcome to the Fashion Tech Room. This is where we do sewing. So this is our current stock of fabric. We are looking to make money so that we can fill all 4 of those shelves. We're also currently working on scrunchies and soon going to be moving to face masks. So this is our brand new sewing machine that we have that's been a really big help. And this is currently our workstations. And in here we have a Cricut machine which helps make logos and designs and decals. And yeah, we're really having a lot of fun with this project.
Brilliant Labs, an Atlantic Canadian nonprofit, is leading the way for innovative, hands-on, and fun K-12 education in Atlantic Canada. We talked to the Executive Director, Jeff Wilson, about how he's given so much to St. Stephen High School and why Brilliant Labs is important. Hi, I'm here with Jeff Wilson, Executive Director of Brilliant Labs. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Good morning, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'm just going to take my mask off here. I'm glad to hear that. So to start off, could you talk a bit about yourself and what led you to Brilliant Labs?
Yeah, sure. Growing up, I had a very interesting relationship, I guess, with education. And so my mother was a teacher in grade 6. She even taught me. And I was relatively fortunate in that schooling came to me relatively easy. I never found struggles. But with that came a lot of boredom and disengagement. And so when I kind of finished university, I kind of washed my hands of education. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm finished with education. Now I'm just going to go to work. Well, then came along our first child, Stella, my daughter. And I was like, oh my goodness, she's going to have to spend like years and years in the education system. And in its current form, I couldn't just sit by and do nothing about it. So I decided, okay, I'm going to get into education again, this time as an educator. So I had an opportunity to teach for a while in Ontario. I then went to PI and had a classroom and kind of committed myself to making sure that I did as much with the students as I could to inspire them to learn and create their own understanding rather than just regurgitate, memorize, and either write papers or tests about the information that I was sharing with them. I wanted them to be able to create their own understanding, solve their own problems. We had a lot of success with that. The student engagement was off the charts. In my view they were learning amazing things and things they'll never forget. And because of my classroom experiences and the way I was looking at things, that led to me being recruited to lead Brilliant Labs. And so I think we started off our first year with like 16 projects with maybe, a dozen schools, and we had 7 maker spaces. And in the last 7 years now in New Brunswick alone, we've got over 140 maker spaces. We've sponsored thousands of projects. We work with tens of thousands of young people, thousands of educators. We then got some attention from the other provinces. So now I'm happy that over the last 6-7 years, we've grown to all 4 Atlantic provinces. And all our work was done in schools in the first few years. But then we realized also, okay, why does the learning have to only happen between 8:30 or 9 and 4? What about after school? What about on weekends? What about in summer? And so we developed some summer camps. We developed some free after school programming. So now we're trying to work with teachers and students year round to help inspire them to learn not only digital skills, but apply them in innovative projects in a hands-on way, but also make them aware of what these post-secondary training opportunities exist and what type of career paths exist in technologies. Because we're trying to really inspire that next generation of innovators, creators, engineers, researchers, startup founders, and entrepreneurs.
So I guess that kind of relates to what keeps you feeling excited to work at Brilliant Labs? What keeps it fulfilling?
Yeah, I think early on it was those light bulb moments, right? Like when you see a young student figure something out or innovate, and the happiness and the engagement and the understanding that they develop that comes from their hands-on experience or their project that they're working on, the innovation. I think early on that was what would kind of help us as a team stay motivated, excited, and get us out of bed and work 12-hour days without stop. Now I think there's still a lot of that that's happening, but we're also seeing the bigger impact and the larger cultural shift and change across the region. And so that is highly, highly motivating. So I guess it's twofold. There's the immense excitement of seeing people learn combined with more excitement related to new technologies always kind of evolving and changing.
Amazing. So we've been so grateful for your commitment to just making sure that we actually know about the technology, know what we're being given, and actually being able to learn about it, not just here you go, good luck type thing. And it really seems like Brilliant Labs has that commitment to making sure that technology isn't just given and left to gather dust in the corner of a classroom. So could you speak a bit about that value?
So in the first few years, there's a lot of distribution of resources and so the idea that, through project-based learning and through the maker spaces, not having infinite resources, we would either lend equipment to teachers and students or give it to them with the idea that, hey, if it's not going to be used, let us know. We'll take it back, we'll lend it to somebody else, and then when you need it again, we'll bring it back. The other part too is when young people kind of get involved with a technology or something they care about or they're interested in, it's not going to collect dust. They're going to take ownership over it. They're going to kind of figure out how to use it. They're going to help their peers learn how to use it. They can maybe be the central go-to person in the school if other teachers or students from other classrooms need to use it. Educators that can sit next to the students and learn alongside them and model how to learn instead of what to learn really gets us fired up, because then that student can kind of take that, and apply it to learning anything really. So yeah, it breaks our heart when stuff's collecting dust, but it doesn't happen very often.
Awesome. Clearly, Brilliant Labs is at the forefront of what you're talking about, just making education better, really revolutionizing how K-12 education works in our province and in the Atlantic region. So we really want to know what your hopes are for our schools, how you hope they'll change going forward, just to close, what you see going forward.
Right, well, if we're lucky enough to be able to model the approach to learning and problem solving that is then being used in schools, we'd be very happy and privileged in that, because we kind of want young people to know that, hey, get together with your friends, identify a problem, collaborate, communicate, work together to solve that problem. You don't have to wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years until you're an adult before you can make a difference. And always being aware that, the world, especially especially as technologically advanced as it is, and it never shuts down, right? We've got people all over the planet always innovating, and we as a region don't want to be left behind. We have to be able to demonstrate, a passion for the future and for innovation and how to integrate that in our education systems, because we don't want to prepare young people for a future that doesn't exist. We don't want to train people for employment opportunities that are going to be non-existent because of robotics or AI and some of these other things. So yeah, we try to, I guess, lead by example. We try to innovate, we try to create. I think that's not only like what motivates us, but why it's exciting for us. And just trying to keep going with innovation and creativity and trying to find new ways in which we can inspire young people to be those, current as well as future leaders.
Yeah, awesome. That's so inspiring, and we're so grateful to be part of this whole thing, be one of the schools that Brilliant Labs is helping and is involved with, and it's just been so awesome. You can see all of the 3D printing our robot here. It's just been so cool, and there's so many kids who have that excitement that you're talking about, just such innovative, creative energy going on because of you guys. So thank you so much.
Very grateful. At the same time, it takes a champion teacher and awesome students too. So, we're a part of it. We provide the support. But again, for us, and especially with your school, there was already a lot of passion and interest, and we just helped fuel it maybe a little bit more. So we're not going to take all the credit. It takes a lot of different people to make this happen, including especially your teachers and yourselves.
We are so grateful for all of the changes to our new technology wing. It's been so cool seeing so many students get passionate and excited about these new technologies. A big thank you goes to Miss Legg, the teacher who has spearheaded this project, and Jeff Wilson of Brilliant Labs. Stay tuned for all the exciting creations coming out of this new technology wing.
Nobody more Charlotte County than me.
Welcome to Charlotte County Trivia, the game show where we test your knowledge to see if you know the truth about where you live.
We'll be testing your knowledge on the place that we call Home Sweet Home.
Our part of the world is full of rich and interesting history. It'd be surprising how much you didn't know. So without further ado, let's get into our first question. Name 2 of 3 larger rivers in Charlotte County.
St. Croix River. I don't know if this is a river, but the Bay of Fundy.
In Charlotte County, the St. Croix River and the Diggity Wash.
St. Croix and St. David's Ridge, because that sounds like it could be a river, but it's also a place.
St. Croix? Is that one? Yeah, that's all I got.
Do you have your final answer? Well, the 3 larger rivers in Charlotte County are the Macadavic, the Diggity Wash, and the St. Croix River. Are you ready for the next question? Okay, here we go. How high does the Bay of Fundy rise in meters?
Isn't it like 15 meters?
15? 20?
How high?
At least a few. Yeah, it's a good few. It's at least a few. Yeah.
Between 12 and 18?
Yeah, 20 meters.
7.
So we're gonna say 7.
Let's say 26.
Okay, do you have your answer? The real answer is 16 meters. The Bay of Fundy is actually one of the highest tides in the world. Are you ready for your next question? Okay, here we go. Ganong has been producing candy in St. Stephen for many years. They've been the first to produce many things in Canada. Which of the following statements is false? They were the first to use cellophane packaging, the first to put Valentine's Day candy in heart-shaped boxes, the first to invent chocolate, the first to use lollipops, or the first to make peppermint rolls.
I'm going with lollipops.
I've never heard of those peppermint things. We're just gonna say lollipops. This is the first to do lollipops.
They were not the first to invent chocolate.
They didn't make lollipops first.
Do you have your final answer? Well, the real answer is they didn't invent chocolate, but they sure do make a lot of it.
Are you ready for your next question? Okay, here we go. Which of the following was invented in St. Stephen? Granite countertops, slab sidewalks, basketball, or toothpaste?
Basketball.
Basketball.
We're gonna hit basketball.
Slab sidewalks.
Basketball. Peach basketball. I watched a history thing on that.
Granite tabletops.
Do you have your final answer? The real answer was slab sidewalks. Are you ready for your next question? Okay, how many perennial plants is Kingsbury Garden home to? Let's go ask our Spartans.
There's quite a few there. I'd say 15, 20.
Kingsbury.
There's
200.
Yeah, I'll say 2, yeah.
200.
I'll say 300. Holy jeez, I don't know. Thousands?
And perennials come back every year, so they can keep planting them and they'll come back. So, I don't know, 300?
Do you have your answer? The real answer was Kingsbury Garden is home to 50,000 perennial plants each year. And that's all the questions we have for you. Thank you so much for playing Charlotte County Trivia. If you're watching on Facebook, comment down below how many questions you got right.
This month we got the privilege to interview Blaine Higgs, the Premier of New Brunswick.
Hello everyone, welcome. Today we have Premier Higgs here with us for the interview. Premier Higgs, how are you doing today?
Fine, thanks. You know, it's we're starting to see signs of COVID getting under control with the vaccines. We have light at the tunnel, and spring is in the air. So things are certainly moving in a positive direction.
Starting off, our first question for you is that given that many students are getting ready to graduate and are choosing to leave New Brunswick, as our Premier, what are your thoughts on how we can bring these people back into our communities with very equitable jobs?
Well, you know, what we're seeing, and I guess maybe one can say that this has brought new light to the province through COVID. We're seeing unprecedented activity within our province right now of people looking to live and work here and stay here. And so a lot of it over the years, and I'm going back to years ago when I graduated from university, I never had any intention of leaving New Brunswick. And it was just like I planned to stay here for my career. And then it kind of shifted over the years to, well, if you're going to be successful, you're going to need to go somewhere else. And I believe it's shifting back to why would somewhere else be more successful than New Brunswick? Or why would I want to move into large urban centers and have a whole different lifestyle than what I have right here in front of me? And we find more and more people today are looking at opportunities here. And we're seeing, you know, unprecedented sales in relation to real estate, but people coming back that I can say that were my kids' generation that are returning back to the province. When we are coming out of school, it's a case of what do I want to do and why do I need to go elsewhere? And one of the key factors is connectivity in terms of being able to work anywhere in our province. And we are very focused on having that 5G capability throughout the province in all areas within 3 years.
Oil is without a doubt a very important industry for New Brunswick, and urban a lot for the province. As we see green and renewable energy becoming more prominent, how will New Brunswick stay relevant and keep up with this important trend?
Well, we definitely are in a transition economy. And as you know, I came from that industry for over 30 years. And we know that there's a gradual phase out of fossil fuels certainly happening and we see it and we're part of it as becoming a greener economy. But there is a transition, and my concern is twofold. One is managing the transition, because you've seen now pulled back 250 people have been laid off at the urban refinery. They're not doing the expansion, the investment in the shutdowns that they normally would do. So there's about another 500 that won't be working in the contracting field this year at this stage. But meanwhile, 80% of that refinery production goes stateside. And our challenge is this, is that as we wind down the use of fossil fuels, we are 10, 15, 20 years out for that to really transition out. But if we shut off our own operations here, we have a huge gap in our economy, and you can't just fill it overnight. The other aspect is, where do we invest? if we were to look at the investment we recently did on the small nuclear reactors. So these small reactors, people will look at it, well, what's this about nuclear? The fact is that energy consumption in the world will never be met by current technology or existing or planned technology in wind and solar. It'll play a role, but there has to be a stable, sustainable backup to that. These SMRs are basically very much a different design. They even use spent fuel, so they could consume the fuel that's certainly being stored at Point Lepreau. They are modular in the sense that they can be moved around into different communities. The fuel consumption is much, much less, even on the reactors that use fresh fuel, than the current technology. So it is a world, let's say, demand solution and our energy solution. And we've invested to be on the inside of that operation, so we could have that construction as, say, Point Lepreau. And it can be a huge benefit to New Brunswick to ship anywhere in the world an energy solution, because it does not exist otherwise. And if you've read any articles about the demands of the world, if we're going to move to a carbon-free emission program, this is the type of supply that can do that and meet the energy demands. Others cannot. So I think we're looking at employment opportunities in New Brunswick like we never were before. We've had more interest now through ONB of people wanting to invest. Our private sector investment is up from where it has been dramatically from where it has been in the past 5 or 10 years. And we've had more interest in New Brunswick than we've ever seen.
For the next question, we're wondering, when you're ready to move on from your career in politics, what are your next life steps and where do you see yourself going?
So for me, I never intended to do this job. I never intended to run as premier. I enjoyed my time as finance minister. We developed a lot of potential opportunities within government. And then we lost government in 2014, and all the things that we were putting in place were kind of just thrown out. So that happens government after government, the volatility of priorities and the switch from one thing to another. So what I vowed to do when I decided, and my wife and I had this discussion, and she decided if I didn't return or make an attempt to run for leader and get into carry on, I'd be very hard to live with. And so she was better that I actually try this. And so we went with the position, okay, I'll run on what I believe in. I'll do what I believe in. And you know, what's really exciting is that we are getting traction in so many areas. We have a great team of MLAs that you know, working in every community to make things happen and working with the bigger picture of the province. So the whole goal for me at this point in my career is building a sustainable path forward that continues to improve.
And how do you see politics evolving, and how can we assure that a large variety of qualified people run for office?
Very good question. If you go back in the history of time, you'd find that most people got involved in politics after having a career in something else, and they were giving back to their community. And the idea was that, okay, you had an experience that you've gained, you saw challenges that you maybe faced, and you wanted to be part of a solution, because everyone comes with the idea they want to be part of a solution and to make it a better society. And so the challenge becomes that politics should not be a career by itself. It should be something that you move into once you've said, okay, I've had a career, I've seen these challenges, I want to be part of a success. And you learn that through experiences for many years. For me, it became a mission of surely we can get better results, because everything that I do, I always like to measure the results. I guess that's part of the engineer in me. I just want to see, are we actually getting value? And when someone says to me, well, we're investing $20 million here, I'll say, well, it's only an investment if you have a rate of return. And if that return means you're actually getting better services, you're getting something from it. So that, for me, is the nuance. I think that we also have a system where we have 49 ridings. So everyone is elected for their own riding, and they're elected to represent the riding and the interests of the riding, and so they should. And there's always the balance between the riding initiatives and some of the overarching provincial initiatives, so that we want to make sure that we have equity throughout the province. So you want to recognize where we have deficiencies in that regard, and you want to help communities. And there's always a balance between, and you've heard the issues I've been involved with, like spending money on things that to create a job or spending money on something we actually need. So for me, I would say, well, my goal is to unleash private sector investment. So if I can spend as a taxpayer dollars $3 million to have a private sector invest 30 million, I likely will give that some serious thought. But if all of the money is simply provincial taxpayers' dollars and there isn't really any outcome other than it creates jobs while it's being built, you kind of say, well, this is not a independent job creation program. We are to invest for long haul, sustainable initiatives for communities. And the more experience you have in kind of how you assess that and presenting the information, then it becomes, I'm building my community sustainably. I'm not just delivering on a project while I'm in office. And that always becomes the challenge of the longer term view and the vision. And that's what I feel that we have to bring more of into the political world. It's not about the next election. It's about the next generation.
Related to the earlier question about students leaving the province, many cannot meet the bilingual requirements for the jobs. Does the government have any plans to reevaluate the provincial requirements for bilingual certification?
When you look at the certification requirements, what we find is there's quite a variability in the testing. And so we're not uniform. We're not uniform in who tests, and we're not uniform in the tests required. And so it's understanding, okay, what is really required here? And when you graduate, like if you graduate from French immersion, it seems like the last thing you should have to do is take another language test in order to apply for, let's say, a job in government. It's to address and understand what are the challenges that our graduates are feeling, whether it be in high school or post-secondary. What are our challenges that are being felt by everyday people trying to get a job in New Brunswick? And how do we address those? So let's lay it all on the table, because at the end of the day, we're here as one society for the betterment of New Brunswick. So we want to work together with all cultures to raise all boats in an equal and fair capacity.
And how do you feel you've grown as a leader from the pandemic?
Well, it's I guess you through this process, you've learned that anything can happen. And part of being a leader in the system is how do you tap into the right resources for advice, for information? How do you work together for decision making so it's collective? And I would say one of the biggest learnings through this, and I would say one of the biggest successes through this, has been our COVID Cabinet Committee, where all leaders were together working on a common issue. So you didn't have opposition being opposition for the sake of being opposition. We were following closely the recommendations of public health. We were watching what was going on around us, and everything we did was kind of as a collective. But COVID has basically taught us that when you really focus and you pick issues, you not only can get cooperation to get it done, but you can get results that you need to get. And we've seen that through COVID. New Brunswick has done very well. And so it taught me that let's not underestimate our potential to be better.
Thank you very much for taking time to, do this interview with us.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. Have a great day.